Hey guys, Crispy here. Just continuing on with the series, and today I'll be talking about my tournament experience that I had on the weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of pictures from the tournament, and by not a lot, I mean none. And that was because my phone was playing up on the day, and the battery was just draining really quickly, and I actually needed to use it for um, viewing my rules for my Squigoth and stuff, just because I've got the ebook for that stuff. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't. I was just too worried to be pulling it out and taking a bunch of photos and have it die halfway through the tournament, and then I'll have the rules for those guys. So unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of pictures, but anyway, bear with me. I do have some photos of my own army and also my mate's army, which are pretty good. So anyway, let's get on to the list that I took. So in the end, I didn't take the list that I spoke about, and the only reason being is because I just couldn't paint the Storm Boys and Zagstruck in time. Um, I tried pretty damn hard. I was there at about 10 p.m. at night working on them. But for some reason, I thought that I had the Storm Boys a lot closer to finish than I actually did. And I spent quite a bit of time on my tank busters. I was meant to be sort of speed painting them, but I spent a lot of time painting on, maybe multiple highlights and all that sort of stuff. So, anyway, in the end, I was left with trying to figure out what sort of list I was going to take. I probably should have just taken a bunch of cans and stuff because they were already painted. But I was talking with a mate of mine through messaging and stuff. He was going to bring Yarrick, and then I got into my head. I was like, "Hey, I'll bring a list that I used to bring. Like I'll bring Guzgull and the Mega Armored Knobs, and I've got this crappy truck that I converted out of a Def Copter, the old truck kit, and some ice cream container." And it's like this really long truck thing. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's not the best looking thing. It's very orky. A lot of people generally like it. But anyway, so I thought I'd bring that, and then this is the list I came up with at 11 p.m. before the tournament. So it is, I think, it's an interesting list, but it's definitely not competitive. So anyway, let's go over it. So I took Guzgull, as I said. Guzgull, obviously, a good choice, but probably a better choice if you're running a Warg Banner knob, a larger unit of Mega Armored knobs, or you're running this guy on foot with some boys, because he does move 5 inches, which I didn't pick up on when I was reviewing him, I don't think. So 5-inch movement for a dude in Mega Armor is pretty cool. And Guzgull himself is just a massive beatstick. He's just cool. Elites, I took my 10 tank busters as I already had planned. These were all painted up, and they were actually really good. 10 tank busters are a fantastic unit. If you can stick them in a truck, or as I did in a Squigoth, they are super good. They are very competitive. 3 Mega Armor knobs, not so much. These guys definitely could have been switched out for anything else. They need a Warg Banner knob for the +1 to hit, because hitting on 4s is not good enough. For heavy support, I took a Squigoth with horns. The Squigoth is a very good model. 18 wounds, only a 4+ save, so he definitely needs a custom force field to support him, especially since I came up against -4 AP pretty much the entire tournament. So, yeah, he definitely needs a custom force field to support him, but he's got 18 wounds. He moves pretty quick. He does mortal wounds on the charge, although I forgot to use it in all of my games, but just his normal attacks were good enough. He destroyed a couple Venoms, I think, and did 6 damage to a Chimera and stuff like that, and then he went down, but his main task was to keep my tank busters alive, which he did well. Then Mecha Dread, 2 Ripper Claws, and Mega Charger. This guy was pretty good as well. The ability to do a first turn charge is just really awesome. The Mega Charger is great. Probably the only thing I will say is that he wasn't as useful for me in the matches I got, just because he just didn't quite have enough attacks. It would be awesome if he had, like, a lot of other walkers will have this thing where rather than doing D6 damage, they'll have an attack that does 3 hits instead and does D3 damage, but, he doesn't get that. So, and then the custom force field mecha, I think that's a solid choice. Especially if you're running, I think that it would be a good choice if you're running a Orc Boy Horde, just because the custom force field on the Mecha Dread is, the footprint is huge then, and you can cover quite a lot of boys with it. So yeah, he was definitely a competitive choice, him not so much. Truck with rocket launcher, you'd take the big shooter every time. That's just how it was modelled, and I was just bringing this truck for nostalgic reasons. And then I had a Vanguard attachment. I took a Weird Boy. I wanted to try out the jump. I actually wanted to jump my Mega Armor knobs. Never got it off on them. I tried it in the first 2 matches. I think must have been 4 times, but just couldn't get it off. Couldn't roll a 7. And then I took 3 singular mechs just to try and do the healing on the Mecha Dreads, and they did do that. The first match, I just kept on forgetting to do it because at the end of the movement phase. So that was a little bit annoying. But I will say that healing 1 wound is actually not that handy. It kept my truck alive a couple times. It kept a Mecha Dread alive for a single turn once. But I would have rathered the big mechs, to be honest. But I just took the 3 singular mechs because I wanted the Vanguard attachment for the extra command point. And as it was, that extra command point was fairly huge in all of my matches. Because I ate through those command points because I was rolling very badly. And as it was, the rerolls never helped me. So, but anyway. So I'll go on about my opponents now. So my first matchup, I came up against Dark Elder. Guy was running Lilith, Succubus, 2 units of 5 Trueborn. Then he ran 2 units of 10 Witches in Raiders, and then he ran the the Razorwing Jet Fighter. His list and five Scourges with 4 Heat Lancers. He had basically blasters and Heat Lancers all through his list, so it was a match made in heaven for him. I was doing well. After the first turn, I was up 5 kill points, so first blood plus 4 dead. So I was feeling really good by that point. But then I just ran out of boys, basically. Guzgull really failed me in that match. He killed 3 witches, and then Lilith came over and killed him. So witches caused 5 wounds to him. Like, it was just horrendous. It was horrendous. I couldn't roll at all. And he also forgot that his supersonic flyer had to move a minimum of 20. At the time, I didn't want to push that because even though I felt like that was probably right, I wasn't entirely sure because I don't own a supersonic flyer. And he assured me that wasn't the case. So obviously I couldn't fight the supersonic flyer because I didn't have my Storm Boys. Storm Boys would have been amazing in this match. In fact, my original list would have probably creamed his list, to be honest. It was really close. In the end, the game ended up being an 8-12, with the difference being made by the fact that his supersonic flyer didn't have to fly a minimum of 20 inches, because he was able to get shots on mechs and stuff like that by just moving it around as he saw fit. So that was a bit of a shame, really. I should have pushed to have him check the rules, but I didn't because it was the first match. I just wanted to have a fun game. And to be honest, with my list, I was like, do I really want to be versing someone on a major win? Probably not. So as it was, we went on to game 2, and I came up against a guy with an Elder army that he'd literally bought that morning. I saw his friends putting the list together. He took a Farseer, Autark, Wraith Knight. He had 2 units of 10 Guardians with the Shuriken Cannon weapons platform, 7 Dire Avengers, and then 2, I can't remember what they're called, but again, it's a supersonic jet. It's got 2 Bright Lancers and a Pulse Laser. So his army was really made for killing my army. And at first it wasn't so bad for me. I was standing up to the firepower a bit. I was inflicting a bit of damage with my tank busters. The guy was just doing, because he'd never played Warhammer before, so he was making some really silly mistakes. And I helped him out. I was like, no, you shouldn't do that, and explaining to him what my things did. If I hadn't have done that, I would have actually just easily won. We were playing the relic. I would have just easily crushed him. But as it was, I helped him out, and in the end, he was able to move his Wraith Knight onto the relic. Like, I had it with my Mega Armor knobs, he killed them off. Unfortunately, not being able to get into a transport with the relic sort of sucks a bit for us. Or for my list anyway. So he killed off my Mega Knobs, which was a bit disappointing. So I dropped the relic at that point. Then I told him that he should move his Wraith Knight onto the relic so that then I couldn't get it. And he was able to kill my Weird Boy and a mech, which were sort of trying to stop him from doing that. And then Guzgul heroically intervened and did 15 wounds, and it was just beautiful. I was like, oh yes. So at that point, his Wraith Knight was nearly dead. It was the only thing that was in a position to get it, to get the relic. And you get a minor victory if you have the closest model. So in the end, he got his minor victory, and I lost. So that was a bit of a shame. We thought we didn't have enough time for another turn, but we actually did. I thought about it after we finished. I was sat around for like 15 minutes. For some reason, I thought the timer was like a lot closer than it was. If we had played another turn, Guzgul kills the Wraith Knight and I win. But doesn't matter. Ended up with that minor loss, so that was fine. And then I went into my third game and I was versing my mate with his tank company. He had 2 losses as well, but his 2 losses were him basically only losing with the person that he was versing with only a couple models left, because his tank company is savage. It's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to get objectives, or he overextended with his infantry, so they were getting quickly killed off. And he'd versed a Chaos list previously and a Orc Horde list. Anyway, so our match, he kills my Mecha Dread with the Mega Charger immediately. He had Yarick, which I suggested he take, sitting next to his 3 Basilisks, which were re-rolling all hits. So it's a very good combination against Orcs. It's only against Orcs I re-roll all hits. Against anyone else, it's re-rolling ones. Because Yarick hates Orcs. And that's the reason why I took Guzgul Thraka, because I wanted, was literally to verse my mate and see if Guzgul could kill Yarick. So, thinking of that, I was like, alright, I'm going to try and jump Guzgul near Yarick if I can. My friend moved some of his men forward, like he had a really nice tight screen, but he moved them forward and gave just enough room for Guzgul to fit in a back corner where he had his 3 Basilisks and Yarick. So I did the jump, it went off, landed in behind him there, went for the charge, 4 inches, went, don't worry about it, got me, here we go, roll it again, 4 inches. Guzgul goes nowhere. Guzgul then eats, I think it was like 14 Basilisk shells, strength 9, -2, D3 damage each. He then eats 9 heavy bolters, Yarick's pistol, and then he goes down to some las guns. Literally the last wound on him. I made a few of them survivalist 6+, feel no pain. So it was very unfortunate, because if Guzgul lives through with 1 wound, he probably changes that entire game. As it was, couldn't silence the Basilisks, and they just did too much damage to my army overall. I was able to take out a few. He had Pask, I took out Pask. Took out a couple Chimeras. Again, tank busters were extremely good. My friend was saying that I was the only person to kill Pask, even though he sort of helped, because he rolled the double 1 on his plasma guns, which did 6 mortal wounds to him, plasma cannons. And then I took out Pask from there. But still, even so, I was the only person, he said, that killed really any of his tanks. So I killed 2 Chimeras and Pask with my tank busters, with a little bit of help from the Squigoth. So yeah, definitely can't recommend tank busters more. They are very good. They're 170 points for 10, like I've taken here. Obviously, bomb squigs are very good as well, because they're hitting on 2s. But even without the bomb squids, a unit of 10 are hitting 6 to 7 times with the rerolls on a regular old tank. So it's just really good, and especially against a Wraith Knight as well. I caused I think six or 9 wounds on a Wraith Knight, something like that. Maybe 6 wounds. Can't quite remember. I think it was 6 wounds on the Wraith Knight, which isn't too bad, because the Wraith Knight's quite tough. And he always casted that fortune or whatever you call it. So it's like another save, like a 5+ save or something. It's not quite Feel No Pain because it's mentioned as a save. So I don't think he would get it against mortal wounds, but maybe that needs to be FAQ'd, or if it has already, I don't know. But anyway, so that was my tournament, and then it came down to best painted. And I was tied with my friend with his tank company. But then my friend took it out. The store manager decided to give it to him because he had better weathering, and I agree with that. His army was very good. So unfortunately, my gambit of trying to get best painted failed, and I took a terrible list as well. But I had a great time. One thing that I did come away with it from the whole tournament is that the Orc Horde list is definitely a thing. So the guy who came second, and there was another guy who was sort of tied with him for second for a while, but he lost his last match, a major defeat. They both were running 2 units of 30 boys, pain boys, and a mech with a custom force field. So that is a seriously good combination, as we've all been talking about in the comments and stuff on all my videos. So definitely I suggest taking probably 3 units. I'd take 3 units of 30 as your minimum core, and then build in some toys from there. I think the Wild Banner Knob might be a good choice, because then you're hitting on 2s, but again, I haven't tested him out, but I will eventually. But yeah, so second place was an Orc player. He, as I said, he ran 2 units of 30 boys. He had a mech with a custom force field. He had a truck with 10 burner boys in there. And then he was running Guzgull on foot. And Guzgull on foot was extremely good for him, especially when he's backed up with a bunch of boys, so you just can't get a hold of him, and then you have no answer to him. He's super strong in that case. So yeah, he came second, and first place was a guy who was running a Zinch list, and he ran what's his name? I think it's Magnus. He's the big demon Primarch, and then he also ran the Forge World Exalted Demon, the Zinch one, the big sort of Lord of Change. And then he ran a bunch of, I think they were Brimstone Horrors. I didn't get a proper look at them, and they weren't painted. As his troops, and he just stomped everyone's face. So I don't know what that army exactly does, but judging from the way people had like these sort of drawn looks on their face when they were versing it, it must be super strong. He came up against an Orc Horde list and just crushed it. So there's something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'll pull up some photos here, fellas. So this was my weird boy. So I painted up the, what do you call it, the Iron Jaws guy. I can't remember what this guy's called actually now. War Chanter. The Iron Jaws War Chanter. So I've got like a blue effect going on here. You can't really see it because of my dodgy photography skills. And then he's got glowing eyes. And I painted this guy the night before, so this guy took me an hour to do, which I'm fairly happy with the way he came out. I think he looks alright. And then, it's a bit blurry, but sorry about that. But this is my Tank Buster sort of commander dude, the Knob. And you can see here, this is actually one of the Tank Cats, and I coloured it in the same colour as my mate's army, just to stir him up. And then these are 2 of my little mechs. This is just a Slugger Boy that I stuck that on there. And then this guy, I can't remember where I got these bodies from, but anyway, both of these guys were grey plastic, and I got them painted up. And there's a third one that I did as well, but I just thought I'd show these so that you can see them. So yeah, that gives you a hint at how my army looked like. It wasn't too bad; it was fairly well painted, but this army beat my army. This is my friend's tank company. Let's have a little look here. So you can see, I mean, like, look at this. Like really nice effects on his on his lights here, and then he's got this written all over. And he's just, the weathering is extremely good. You can see here the mud here. I don't know what he does for that, but that looks extremely good as well. And yeah, he's just got some amazing weathering going on, and some really nice, I don't know what you would call it, decals, I suppose. There's another one, that's his, I think that's his, that might be his Pask, not sure. But yeah, you can see it's a really well painted army. He has a bunch of infantry that look as good as this guy, if not better. These are his basilisks. He did some really good work on these, because these, when he bought these, he bought them for quite cheap. And the person that had them beforehand, they'd painted them with those old school glossy model paints, and these were just basically like a beige blob. So my friend had to get like a Dremel tool and cut off all the paint and stuff so that he could actually paint the treads again. But yeah, he did a fantastic job. He painted these leading up to the tournament within a week. And then here's one of his chimeras. This is the one with the twin flamer up the top here, another heavy flamer down here. So his army is really hard to charge into. And there's another shot of his demolisher. And here's another one of his, this is just one of his Lehman Russes. And that's it. So yeah, as you can see, it was a fantastic army, and rightfully took out best painted, I think. These photos also don't even really do it justice. I mean, it is a beautiful army. He's been working on it for some time, and he definitely deserved to win that best painted award. And as I said, even though he was versing me on the bottom tables, he nearly tabled his first two opponents with this list. It was just a matter of accidentally overextending his infantry and having them get killed, so then he couldn't capture objectives. In the kill point mission, he was telling me against the Chaos, the guy had 2 Terminators left, and unfortunately the game ended. But if it hadn't have ended, my friend had all of his tanks still available, so those Terminators would have been toast. In his second match, he was versing Orkz, and again I looked over, it was just Guzgull and a few Orkz, but they had the relic, and my friend had no more infantry left, so he had to kill Guzgull to take the relic, and he couldn't get to him because of these few boys just standing in front. But that Orc player, he went on to come second, but he looked very sort of harassed, like he was getting pounded. And then I versed this list, like it was definitely a mismatch. I mean, I'd been getting creamed all tournament, and then I come up against this list, which was almost wiping people off the table every time. But yeah, all in all, it was a really good tournament. And I look forward to going to the next one. I don't know if I'm going to bring Orkz to the next one. I am seriously considering taking Death Guard just for fun. I have Mammon, which is the Forge World Death Guard Demon Prince now. He was the Tainted, but they gave him the Death Guard keyword, and I want to give him a go. But we will see. It's in 2 weeks from now, so it's not very far away. I've got to paint an entire Death Guard army, so whether I have enough time to do so, it will depend on whether I take my Orks. If I do take my Orks, then I will be bringing a competitive list this time, because while I didn't mind playing the Fluffy Bunny and having a bit of fun, there's a little bit of a, like, especially because I didn't win Best Painted, which my friend won justifiably, but still I normally hedge my bets. I either go for Best Painted and think I'm going to get it, and I was almost sure I was going to, because I hadn't actually seen my friend's army up close. But when I missed out on judges, like so close, and then miss out at the last second, I was like, oh. And then to have all those crushing defeats with a few of them because people, well, one, a guy couldn't use his army, and the first one, the dude was a little bit confused on his rules, so accidentally cheated. It was bitter. Yeah, I'll say that. It was bitter. Anyway, guys. Hopefully I didn't complain too much. Hopefully you enjoy the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll be doing a couple more videos today and sticking them up. And yeah, thanks for listening.